All right, and we are recording. Hey, world historians, Mr. Swanson here. I just wanted to wrap up where we got interrupted in class. In 2 years of teaching now, certainly I'm far from an expert and far from very experienced, but I have not had a class go long, or I just straight up didn't get to the information. So first time for everything. We did get interrupted on the announcements just a little bit at the end. And I just wanted to wrap up our conversation on Islam. So I'll pick it up right here. We were talking about the 5 pillars of Islam. We did get to go over this pretty much in depth. Remember the fun acronym, or rather mnemonic I gave you to remember it. Few people crave frozen pickles. And I said, I know that's not true for you guys, because I see you guys throw out $20 bills for frozen pickle juice at the concession stand of all these sporting events I go to. So I know you guys actually like frozen pickles, but in terms of this mnemonic, it means faith, prayer, charity, fasting, and pilgrimage. So maybe few people crave frozen pickles will help you remember the 5 pillars of Islam. All right, moving right along. We did talk about one of the key rituals was prayer, 5 times a day, prayer facing east. So in my room right now, the east is to my right-hand side. And if I were to, as Muslim, going to pray, I would turn my body physically orient to the east and bow and pray towards the holy city of Mecca. We took opportunity to point out in this picture, there's only men. So there is a segregation in the prayer time ritual. And then if you look in the lower right, there is an individual sitting in the chair as opposed to kneeling. There are understandable accommodations in the religion for people who can't meet the physical requirements of bowing, kneeling, praying. But ritual prayer 5 times a day, that's one of the main pillars as well. Symbol, we talked about the crescent, moon, and star, and we looked around the room at many of our national flags, and we noticed there was a crescent moon or a crescent moon and a star on several flags, and those are from nations that are predominantly Muslim. Finally, we did talk about social structure and the Shia-Sunni divide. You might think, well, they're all Muslim. Don't they all get along? And just like to try to make a comparison, something we would understand a little bit more, there's Protestant Christians, there's Catholic Christians, or we could divide even more. There's Baptists, there's Methodists, there's the Holiness Church, there's Nazarenes, right? Even in Christianity, which is something we understand here in the Bible Belt a little bit more personally, there's still division. So this divide inside of Islam is not something that's just like crazy and something we can't fathom. We can understand a divide. Now, this divide, however, often does come with violent ramifications. However, here's the big summary of the divide. The Sunni believe that leadership is a community. Leadership of the community is not a birthright. You can be elected into the leadership position, or you can earn the leadership position. It is not through your bloodline. It is not a birthright. Sunni Muslims account for 85% of the Muslim faith. Shia, or sometimes pronounced Shiite, and you got to be real careful with that one. Shia or Shiite Muslims believe that leadership is a birthright. You have to have your bloodline traced directly to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And this is the minority of Muslims, 15% of Muslims. Some Shia dominant countries in the world are Iran and Saudi Arabia. However, there's still a commonality in both of these sects, and that is that all Muslims follow the Quran. They follow the Prophet's hadiths, right? Muhammad's hadiths, his sayings. They adhere to the 5 pillars. They strive to go on the Hajj. So there's plenty of commonality between these sects as well. Briefly, we kind of just got to jihad right as we were being interrupted. I wanted to talk about jihad because that is a word in the news and has been in the news for upwards of 2 decades now. The word jihad literally means struggle or an effort. It is far more than just what Fox News or CNN would have you believe is a holy war, such as Muslims are having a jihad with the Western civilization or America itself. No. Jihad is far more than a holy war. It's the struggle of trying to do better in daily life. Muslims use the word jihad to describe 3 different kinds of struggle. 1, an internal struggle to live out the Muslim faith as well as possible. And 2, a struggle inside of society to build a better Muslim society. The first type of jihad is a jihad against yourself. Again, I want to live my faith as well as possible. That's a self jihad. Second is the jihad against Satan. These two are called the greater jihads. And then there's a third category known as a lesser jihad. And this is the jihad against an enemy. This is the type of jihad that might make the headlines, because if someone has declared a jihad against America or against someone unlike them, yeah, and there's bloodshed. This is the kind of thing that grabs headlines. But we made this distinction all throughout our class. There is peaceful side of Islam, and then just like in any other tradition of faith as well, there are extremisms, and these unfortunately are the kind of Muslims who are in the news, who are waging war and committing crimes against humanity. But let's not let any other faith group off the hook as well. There are these outliers in any faith. Muslim extremism, Islamic extremism, sometimes called radical Islam. Yep, that is the kind of Islam where they believe Sharia law should be in place for the whole government. It's one thing for our country to say one nation under God, but of course we have religious diversity, we have a separation of church and state, we have freedom of religion. So we don't say that the Bible is our government. We say that our government is founded on principles of morality, but that is not exclusive to the Christian faith. Sharia law is the application of Islam through the government. And just a couple pictures here referencing extremism. Again, these are the kind of pictures that catch headlines, does a total disservice to kind-hearted, peaceful, loving Muslims who are not following this radical sect as well. But you can certainly see the type of signs that grab the headlines here. Slay those who insult Islam, behead, butcher those who mock Islam, certainly on the extremist side of the faith there. Let's talk about the Taliban. Obviously, the Taliban has been in the news for the past 2 decades, but very recently related to they have recaptured control of Afghanistan. In fact, this picture is a very recent picture of Taliban government officials who are Muslims inside of the presidential palace or the governor's palace in Kabul. Something I take out of this picture is the variety of dress. Yes, there's the traditional garb, but the man in the suit jacket and shirt, he's a member of the Taliban, and you don't have to dress in a turban and an overcoat to be a member of the Taliban. You don't have to carry an AK-47 at all times to be a member of the Taliban. He is a more Western dressed individual, but he is still a member of the Taliban. Talibans are on the fundamentalist side. They're on the extreme and radical side. They are Sunni Muslims. They have a kind of unique ideology. It could be described as an innovative form of Sharia law and an application of Sharia law. There's also a very unique custom in Afghanistan, which I experienced this personally, called Pashtun Wali. That's because most members of the Taliban are from the Pashtun tribe. And then unfortunately for Afghanistan and for the world, there's kind of a collision of cultures for a long period of time where there were Taliban Pashtuns, and then there were those Pashtuns who were embracing the American presence and hoping for a more democratic Afghanistan. And that unfortunately put tribesmen at odds with each other, which is a very rare occurrence in Afghanistan. Usually you gravitate to the tribe above all else. So unfortunately, Pashtun individuals being in conflict with one another just created for more conflict all around the country. I'm going to show you a couple pictures from my time in Afghanistan here in just a second. And this is something, unfortunately, I didn't get to in class, but I'm going to do it now. So just to acknowledge, the Taliban is from the more fundamentalist sects of Islam, and something that's just in the news today. It's relevant, and I was hoping we'd be able to have a chance to talk about it in class. You might remember when I came into class and I was wearing traditional clothing, much like you see on the screen there. I had a turban on even. Maybe you can describe that to your parents. I greeted you with the phrase, Salam Alaikum, which means peace be with you. I taught you to respond with Alaikum Salam, which means and also with you, and peace also with you. So Salam Alaikum. And I called you my talibs. Good morning, Salam Alaikum, my talibs. That means the word student. Talib means student. So Taliban, Talib, and Taliban, it just means the students. We use that word like it's a terror group. We use that word like it's maybe a derogatory term. To be in the Taliban, you're an evil person. The word Taliban is neutral. It means student. Now, members of the Taliban, unfortunately, have committed many crimes against humanity, crimes against decency, and that makes the Taliban obviously a negative connotation and an evil group. But the word Taliban itself is neutral. Talib is just a student. Taliban is just a group of students. All right, moving along. Of course, and then of course, in Islamic extremism, the most famous face might be Osama bin Laden. I have at the front of my room a picture of a Time magazine with Osama bin Laden's face on it, big old red X across it, because this is the edition of Time magazine that came out after he was killed in May of 2011. Osama bin Laden belongs to a sub-sect in Islam. So much like there are more extremist Christian groups that maybe bomb abortion clinics, not something that most Christians are going to accept or advocate for. You might think about the Westboro Baptist group. Yo, they don't represent the type of Baptist church I go to. Osama bin Laden is very similar inside the Islamic world. The Wahhabi sect is an extremely fundamentalist or literalist sect of Islam. And not many Muslims would agree with Osama bin Laden's brand of Islam or his extreme application of violence and jihad while practicing his faith. So just as I don't have a connection to the Westboro Baptists and their prejudices and their violent rhetoric, many Muslims don't connect with Osama bin Laden and his mission, his jihad against the West. So he did form a militant Islamic organization called Al-Qaeda, and he does attract followers. He does finance many terror projects across around the world. And he has been rightfully targeted and attacked. Summarily, he was killed on a battlefield because of his beliefs and his actions across the past 2 decades. The religious experience, this just rounds out your notes. A big part of the religious experience being a Muslim is Ramadan. Ramadan is the 9th month on the Islamic calendar. It is a month-long fast, which means you do not eat during the daylight hours. You are allowed to eat during the evening hours. It's unique that it's the 9th month of the Islamic calendar because that does not mean September. Okay, our 9th month on the Gregorian calendar is September. The Islamic calendar is a little bit different. And in fact, the months aren't 30 days. So periodically, or not periodic, like our calendar, the Gregorian calendar, the Islamic calendar, they get off cycle with each other. So Ramadan is never at the same time in our traditional Western American calendar. It's always moving by about 10 days at a time because of how our calendars are slightly different from one another. Just another example of how the way I do life is not necessarily the way everybody does life, and that's okay. A lot of you students, my students, are very surprised to see, to listen to the music that I play in class, right? Mesopotamian music or ancient Greek music, ancient Roman music. You guys are like, this music stinks. Oh, those were hits for that culture. Similarly, we talk about the calendar and we have our 12 months, and by gosh, that must be the way everybody lives, right? Not the case. There's an Islamic calendar that is entirely different from your calendar, and Ramadan falls on the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. Every now and then, you'll have a famous athlete who is Muslim and is observing Ramadan, and let's just say Enes Kanter of the Portland Trail Blazers. That's the last team he was on, as last I knew. He used to be on the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's one of the Smash Bros. We loved Enes Kanter in Oklahoma City, where I grew up. Enes Kanter is Muslim. He's from Turkey, the country of Turkey. He observes Ramadan. And every now and then, during the month of Ramadan, he will fast during a game. He won't drink Gatorade. He won't have any snickety snacks. He will drink only water, which you're allowed to drink during Ramadan. And then after the game, after an NBA game, he will then break his fast, which you're allowed to do during the nighttime hours, and he will eat a healthy meal. But just kind of, it's a very unique application of one's faith. It's a very public application of your faith. And I think we need to commend someone's fervor for their religion. Enes Kanter he's a professional athlete. He has a job where you could reasonably say, hey, you need to eat right and drink well so that you can do your job. But he observes what his religion asks him to observe, even though it means he might not be at peak condition to play an NBA game. Just a little side note there. Every now and then you'll see athletes in the news for the purpose of Ramadan. All right, the storyline of Islam. This is on your notes. Got a couple more slides here, and then I'm going to show you some pictures from Afghanistan, and I think I'll finally be done talking. I want to say that I am not an Islamic scholar, okay? I have not spent a lifetime studying Islam. I cannot speak authoritatively on the storyline of Islam. So what I have done is reference someone who is a scholar. And these next couple of screen grabs you're going to see come from an Islamic scholar And this is his summary of the storyline of Islam. So I'm giving the expertise to him. I'm repeating what his summary of the storyline of Islam is. And I'd be happy to reference this article to anyone who is curious to see it for themselves. And as a student of history, I hope you're always seeking to actually see the source. Don't just take it from me. Ask to see the source. I can provide that source for you. So here it is. Storyline of Islam. 2 parts. 1, accept Allah as master and accept yourself as slaves. Write that down. Accept Allah as master and accept yourself as slaves. 2, accept that this guidance, his guidance, is only beneficial to people who accept themselves as slaves. That makes slavery and guidance the summary of the entire Quran. Slavery and guidance is the summary of the entire Quran. Not my words, comes from the Islamic scholar. I'll let you chew on that and decide what it means to you. And then this is a phrase that comes from a prayer. I'm not going to try to say it phonetically, but a phrase that they would say in prayer. You can see he's on his prayer rug. Let's assume that he's facing the direction east. He is facing towards Mecca. And he says, Allah is my master and I am his slave. This is a prayer that they offer ritually 5 times a day. Allah is my master and I am his slave. Couple pictures from my time in Afghanistan. You can see that is me. I'm second from the right, and I am hanging out with some local Afghans. Some of these men were in my local police force. We called them the Afghan local police. Others were a little bit more seasoned. Our village elder is not in this picture. His name is Haji Razik, and his name was Haji because he had completed the Hajj. Remember, we talked about that pillar. But I just go to show that I've immersed into this culture, and I did for about 9 months. I was in Afghanistan for 9 months. I've lived alongside these people. I have some opinions and emotions about the recent events in Afghanistan and the fall of Afghanistan upon the American departure. I gave some of myself to Afghanistan, not as much as some, but more than others. And I just want to speak to the character of these people. Okay, so for all the unique things that we've talked about for Islam, some of them have been shocking to the system. You know, strike fear into the heart of the outsiders, death to anyone who does not follow Islam, jihad upon you, Muslim extremists, all this type of stuff, right? There's some negativity to the radical side of Islam. There's some negative stereotypes in the news. I just want to say I've hung out with these people and I find them to be good people. I find their blood to be just as red as mine. Fellow on the right of your picture there, that is Haji Razik, the individual, and then I have the helmet on, and then the next individual is an Afghan army commander. He had the same rank as me, more or less. We were counterparts. I was the American, he was the Afghan. And then the fellow on the far left with the bluish uniform, that's the local police uniform. His name is Lala, Commander Lala. That's Haji Razik on the right-hand side. And you can tell he's a Haji because of his black turban. Next picture here. These are 3 individuals whom I was probably closest with. They were my translators, my interpreters. On the left, his name is Sammy. In the middle, that is Wahid. And on the right-hand side, that is James. He just told us his name was James. I think that he thought we couldn't pronounce his Afghan name. So Samir, called him Sammy, Wahid, and James. And these individuals were very important in my Afghan deployment. They helped me connect culturally. They helped me connect with language. And I would just like to say, if they are representatives of Muslims, they are excellent representatives of their religion. In fact, I can say, and I'll just say it on video, I'll just say it as openly as I can, they are probably more devout in my faith, they were more devout in their faith than I was in mine at that time. I was 23 in Afghanistan. I was a young man, a lot of responsibility for my age and my maturity and my experience. And these men were more devout in their Muslim faith than I was in my Christian faith at that time in my life. And so I respect their spiritual maturity. I respect their devoutness. I respect their commitment to their country, and certainly their willingness to work with the Americans in pursuit of a republic, in pursuit of democracy and freedom. I will say, I don't know what happened to these men. A lot of American service members have stayed in touch with their interpreters. In the news recently, many Americans helped their interpreters get out of Afghanistan because they stayed in touch, email addresses, phone numbers, all that. I left Afghanistan in 2013. I did not stay in contact with these men. I unfortunately don't know the rest of their story. And I kind of wish I did. But they very much influenced me as a young man. They influenced my perspective on Islam and certainly on the fortitude of the Afghan people. So Sammy and Wahid and James, thank you for your service to America. Genuinely, I say that with all sincereness. And thank you for being my counterpart, my battle buddy in Afghanistan during those times. So that's a wrap. That's how much time I didn't get to in class. And I kind of appreciate the chance to talk about it on video here, because I could not rush. I could go slowly and make sure we all understand all the points I was wanting to make. Just keeping in mind, next week, you're going to do this TV news interview. And the better notes you take now, the better you will be equipped to have an awesome TV news interview video. Think of it like a skit. You're gonna perform for the camera, but the setup is that you're doing a TV news interview. So think about all the things you could include into that. Now, I haven't told you what group you're in, and I haven't told you what religion you'll have, because I want you to pay attention to all of it. The goal here is to be informative, not persuasive, right? We're not trying to persuade someone to be a Muslim or a Christian or Jewish, but we're informing, like we're having an interview with the TV news anchor. And you can look at our Google Classroom for a couple of examples that I have posted in our Google Classroom. A couple of YouTube links from how we did it last year. They're hilarious. It's an awesome project. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Y'all, thanks for tucking in, paying attention to the rest of class that we didn't get to. Excited to see you tomorrow. Have another special lesson planned. Don't we just always have a special lesson planned? World historians, from me to you, thank you for being in this classroom. Thank you for your participation. I genuinely love every one of you. It's a privilege to be your teacher. Swanson out.